Okay, hello and welcome to the MS Dynamics World Spring 2013 CRM webcast series. I'm Jason Gumpert, and thanks for joining us today for the CRM MVP panel. We have a really great group with us today, led by Donna Edwards of TCC Software Solutions, and I'm going to hand off control in just a minute to Donna and the group. But before that, I do just want to mention a couple of things about the event today. We have a couple ways for you to add your feedback and your questions. You can use the Q&A block and the chat block that you should see to the right of the slides. And we do absolutely invite you to ask questions and share your point of view. Second, you can also feel free to tweet your thoughts, tweet your questions. We are going to be using the hashtag MSDWCRM, which I'll put in the chat as well for you to see, to sort of tweet out what we're learning today and to listen for any questions that come in. And if anyone has any problems seeing the slides that are up there right now, you might want to try just adjusting the view in the lower left. Look for a sort of a zoom percentage and look for the fit in viewer option. That should give you a good view of what's up there and might help to adjust things. So without further delay, I do want to now hand over control to today's MVP moderator, Donna Edwards. Donna, are you there?
Hey, Jason, I am. Thanks so much.
Great. Well, take it away. I know we have questions starting to come in, and maybe you'd like to start by introducing the group.
Sounds great. So welcome, everybody. We look forward to chatting with you today and talking all things Dynamics CRM. We have a great panel, some really brilliant minds with us today, so let's make sure that we exercise it and get the greatest value from it. When you have a question to ask, simply type it in the Q&A window, and we will get to those questions as time permits. And just to start things off, I'm just going to do a quick introduction of our panel. Of course, I'm Donna Edwards. I know many of you from the community and our interactions, so I'm really happy to be able to share some time with you today and moderate this event. We also have Alex Fagundes from Power Objects. Alex, you are the CTO, is that correct?
Yep, CTO/CIO, primarily on the technical side.
Perfect. So if you had to speak to like some of your favorite things about CRM and those areas of CRM that you enjoy working in, what are those?
So mine would have to be the extensibility. So pretty much seeing what CRM can do from an XRM perspective, from plugins, workflows, literally creating something on top of CRM. It's pretty neat to see what CRM can do, what some clients have done with CRM.
Great. And we also have my good friend and partner in crime, Chris Cognetta from TriBridge. Chris, I know you're running the practice, you're a practice manager over there at TriBridge, and I know you've got your hands full with a lot of stuff. You're also like one of the few, I think, ADFS IFD experts.
Hey, Donna. Good afternoon. Afternoon, everybody. Yep, I'm the practice manager for TriBridge Client Field Engineering team. Very similar to a PFE role that Microsoft has, responsible for all support throughout TriBridge. And yes, I'm a ADFS and CRM infrastructure architect. Thanks for having us.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you. And Leon is one of our Down Under peers, and it's actually about 2 a.m. in the morning over there, Leon. So Leon's gotten up to join us today. Leon's also our in-house physicist, right? So you keep us all straight on all the statistical stuff and keep Salesforce honest. Maybe you can speak to a little bit more about those things.
Yeah, Salesforce will be releasing another quarterly announcement soon, so I'll probably be doing a blog on how much money they've lost this quarter. But yeah, it's about 2 in the morning here now, but that's okay. I got an early night in, so I've already got some hours logged into bed, so it's all good.
Great, and you're doing some practice manager work for one of the companies over there, right? Oaken?
Yeah, so the official title is Principal Consultant, but effectively, yeah, I'm running the Dynamics CRM team in the New South Wales office there. And I'm quite new in the job. I've only been there about 3 weeks, but it's going really well. I'm really enjoying it.
That's great. Really glad to have you, Leon. Thanks for participating. And then we have Matt Whitteman from Click Dimensions. Matt and I go back a long way, and he knows an amazing amount of information about CRM, not only from a marketing perspective, but infrastructure, networking, and those areas. So hi, Matt.
Hi, Donna. Thank you for that. Glad to be here today.
And Shan MacArthur, ADX Studios. He is the guru of portal solutions as well as solution management and a few other things. You have the ALM toolkit. Hey, Shan, thanks for joining us. Is your phone on mute?
Thank you, Donna. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, my experience really is on the SDK portal extensions, and my recent passion is application lifecycle management and any kind of topic surrounding CRM change management with large teams.
Terrific. So as you can see, we have a wide skill set here. So I'm sure we can tackle and respond to any questions that you have. So we'll look forward to those questions coming in. We've got a few in the queue right now from Anwar and one from Louis. So attendees, feel free to keep those questions coming. Well, let's just jump right in here and take one of the questions. Anwar is having some challenges with a custom workflow in CRM Online. It says it seems to be working kind of as async plugins would work. And I guess the process is kind of long and it's throwing some timeout exceptions. So I'm wondering if you guys might have some advice for him about how to address that.
Sure. Hey guys, this is Alex from PowerObjects. I will jump in. So Donna, was the issue primarily plugins or workflows with CRM Online?
Looks like it's a custom workflow.
Okay. Yeah.
So maybe we could just provide him some direction as far as, how to troubleshoot that and maybe some areas to look in.
Yeah, so a couple things we typically do. So one, the new SDK has a pretty good section on debugging plugins in CRM Online. You can actually literally create a trace file and then later on trace your code as it's being executed in CRM Online. It's going to be an after the fact, but you literally get a debug file that you can use to trace your code. That typically allows you to see the variable values, etc., as the code is being executed. The second item to keep in mind is that CRM Online does have a 2-minute maximum execution time. So if your plugin, either an actual synchronous plugin, asynchronous work plugin, or a workflow plugin, the max runtime is only 2 minutes. There's also a mechanism that keeps a plugin from calling itself, a recursion catching method. And I believe that's a maximum of 8 times within an hour. If the same code runs against the same entity 8 times within an hour, it gets blocked in CRM Online. Other folks, any other thoughts on debugging or things that you have seen that can cause a plugin issue in CRM Online?
Well, that's a big topic, especially if you're running something in the context of a workflow or custom workflow assembly. You really want to look and see what's the underlying reason that it's taking so long to run. Is there something else going on? Are you running into permissions issues, or is there some other logical error? So yeah, as Alex said, you want to do some tracing and diagnostic to try to understand what's going on there. But if some things are timing out, it's usually because there's some other underlying error.
And this is Shan, not just a timeout. The only other thing I've seen with people struggling with the plugins in Serum Online is realizing that they're in the sandbox and that you have to use fully qualified domain names. You can't use IP addresses, localhost, or other things like that when you're running in the sandbox for any external access. And then you're limited to outbound HTTP and HTTPS. So if you try to do anything outside of the code access security limitations on the sandbox, you're going to have troubles uploading to Serum Online.
I'm also wondering if, I don't know if it's possible in this particular workflow, but would it make sense to maybe try to break the workflow up? If it's a long-running workflow, would it make sense to try to figure out a way to break that up into possibly some child workflows, so you can get a better idea of maybe where the failure is occurring?
Yeah, you can also contact Microsoft CRM Online support for reviewing the logs with you and help point out other issues. We have seen some issues with SQL Server performance, etc., that they've been able to tune to help plugins run much better. So you want to also take a look at that.
Okay, thanks everybody. So hopefully that helps give you some ideas about the direction to take, Anwar. So we'll be looking forward to hearing from you to see if those issues get resolved for you. Our next question is from Louis, and Louis asks, what's the ultimate accounting system that can be linked and integrated along with Dynamics CRM 2011? So I'm going to jump in and just say that generally speaking, Great Plains is usually a pretty good fit, and I've worked on some integrations with Great Plains, leveraging Scribe as well. How about the rest of you? What have you worked on as far as integrating accounting systems with Dynamics CRM?
Yeah, Donna, obviously in agreement with Great Plains, but also the fact that you have a Dynamics CRM product, you'd like to integrate it with another Dynamics ERP product. There's several out there, NAV, AX, etc., GP, that you can build that integration and have less challenges. You can integrate it to other products. So just because you don't have a Dynamics ERP backend doesn't mean it won't work, but you will face different challenges.
I'd also mention a lot of companies get a lot of mileage out of QuickBooks, and there are some ISVs that have recently put out some nice QuickBooks integrations for CRM, even for CRM Online. So that's definitely worth looking into if you don't want to go the Dynamics route.
Yep,
that's actually
jump in with Solomon. Yep. So we have seen a number of CRM systems integrating both with GP and Microsoft Solomon SL. That also hums along really good.
And Matt, it's interesting that you bring up QuickBooks because I've been seeing a lot of buzz in the community lately about QuickBooks and people asking for what's the best connectors for Dynamics CRM and QuickBooks. Do you have a suggestion for that?
There is a company called Living Business Online that worked very closely with QuickBooks and Microsoft to make an integration. So I think it's just at livingbusinessonline.com that they have that.
Okay, perfect. Hey, thanks so much. So I think those are all some great suggestions for accounting packages to explore. And of course, as you're exploring them, you just want to take a look at the feature set and pricing, implementation, that sort of thing to decide, which one best fits. The good news about Dynamics CRM is it's fairly easy to integrate due to the SQL database. The back end can be integrated with several different systems, either using Scribe or SSIS or the connector that's available. solution that Matt discussed. So I think that, that your options are pretty wide open. Moving on, here's an interesting question for you. I think Leon will really appreciate this one, and that is, John's asking us, what are some of the reasons that people choose Salesforce over Dynamics CRM, or vice versa? Why do people choose CRM over Salesforce? And then, what are some of the tools and available to us to, educate people about what the differences are and why Dynamics CRM is a better solution?
Okay. Hey, Donna, Chris again. I think I would start off in saying that when you look at the Salesforce solution versus the Dynamics platform and architecture, Salesforce is actually going out and purchasing other components to compete with the Microsoft stack. So when I'm talking about things like Outlook integration, you might have Gmail integration, but you don't have a completely blended model between your ERP and data. So being that you're using the Microsoft platform and the different tools that are there, they're designed to work together to provide that seamless integration. Whereas in Salesforce, you might have to jump in and out of several apps, even though they claim to have the same connectivity and functions. Those particular apps are going to require you to have different look and feel, different user training, etc., because they are separate products and usually supported by other third-party companies or not owned by Salesforce. So you can see that even more with the integration for the Orion timeframe and the Windows 8 platform and how that's all coming together to address what they were calling ambiguous, which is access across any device, any type of browser, any mobile device, and have a seamless experience, and that's where we're headed.
Yep, great points. I was going to say one other thing too. It's the when you extend Salesforce, you're using S-Force, and when you extend Dynamics CRM, you're using C#, .NET, and typically you can find a lot more resources on the Microsoft .NET side as opposed to S-Force. Go ahead. Somebody else was going to speak.
Yeah, no, Leon here. I agree with Chris. The Salesforce has a lot of different solutions. So they've got sort of some social solutions. They've got the Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, etc. They don't seem to be as tightly integrated as the Dynamics CRM with, say, Outlook or with its products. Broadly speaking, the functionality is similar, though. If you look at the Gartner charts, look at the Forrester, functionally they're quite similar products. Microsoft is a lot tighter, especially if you're a Microsoft shop, right? If you're a Microsoft shop, Dynamics CRM is a better fit. If we're talking online, obviously there's a significant price difference as well. For an apples to apples comparison of the functionality you get, Microsoft is, or Dynamics CRM online is about half to a third of the price of the Salesforce equivalent. So there's definitely a significant price difference. And if you're a Microsoft shop, the Outlook integration is unsurpassed of any CRM product in the market, Salesforce or any other.
Okay, great. Anybody else have anything they'd like to share on that subject? Did we happen to cover? Are there like materials like PowerPoint slides or anything available maybe out on Customer Source, Partner Source? Did you guys cover that?
We didn't, but there are lots of documents on the differences between Salesforce and CRM. Microsoft is one authority, but if you don't want to hear it from the people who are building it, like you want to avoid Salesforce documents and you want to avoid CRM documents, and go out and look at the independent studies, and that will also give you pointing out some of these items as well.
Yeah, the Gartner and the Forrester studies, you can get those papers from the Microsoft press site. I think it's called PressPass from memory. And if you look into how they sort of evaluate the products, they go right down into the functionality of each one, so you can see relative strengths and weaknesses. And if you're looking for a specific piece of functionality in the products, that might give you an indication of which one's stronger for that one aspect that you're after. But as I say, broadly speaking, for Salesforce automation, for service management, the products are pretty similar at a high level.
Okay, terrific. Hey, thanks, guys. Hopefully that that helps respond to that question and gives the individuals some information to move forward with. So let's move on and take a look at what Nandini, I think, hopefully I've not mispronounced your name, wants to ask some questions regarding best practices for automating solution management. Are there any tools available? So I know Shan has the ALM tool, and there are some other practices and tools that you guys utilize with respect to solution management. So I'd love to hear more about that.
Okay, this is Shan here. So probably something interesting for you is this week, the CRM team blog actually put an article out based on some MCS feedback on ALM environment within CRM. There's a lot of great information within that document. I don't prescribe to all of the same practices, but the nice part is that you don't have to not everyone has to take the same approach for every project either. So there are, what I recommend is do a lot of reading around it. There's a lot of different methodologies you can use. But the real bottom line is you want to treat your CRM projects just like any other enterprise application that you'd be building in-house. And so all the best practices within the ALM world will actually work well within CRM. So CRM can fit into an ALM ecosystem, and all the best practices you can apply to a CRM project. Now, as far as tools and things like that, I obviously, in ADX Studio, we make an ALM toolkit, which is heavily dependent on PowerShell. So we basically automate everything through PowerShell and have quite a number of tools to do that. But in the end, our ALM toolkit just calls the web services. So everything you need to do to automate change management in CRM is available through the web services. So whether you use our toolkit or build your own, or use utilities you find off the market, it doesn't really matter as to what you're using from an automation standpoint. Just make sure you follow the ALM best practices. Use source control as the authoritative source for everything in CRM. That's your data, your configuration, and things like that as well. Do not use a running CRM database as your authoritative source, as your development environment. That's way too fragile. And then obviously try to get to the point where you have developer isolation, so each developer and consultant can work in their own isolated environment, independent of everybody else, and obviously checking in your changes into TFF to share it with the team. You want to automate your build environment so you can get a reliable, stable build that works both from an ISV as well as continuous integration. And finally, you want to automate your testing to give you that confidence that the changes that are coming through the build system are not regressing errors or not destabilizing your application. So when you take those types of approaches, you can find the tools anywhere, but that's how I recommend you think about the problem set that you're talking about.
Matt, I'm sure you have something you can share with us on how you guys manage this from a Click Dimensions perspective as well. Do you use the same type of approach, something different?
We are not nearly as automated as we'd like to be, that's for sure. And we're pretty strict about our source control. I mean, that's, to me, the biggest thing is, like Shan said, the tools are out there, and there are different approaches. The white paper Microsoft put out this week is informative, but at the end of the day, I mean, to me, the most important, most critical thing is that you have your source control process very tight. And like Shan said, don't try to rely on a CRM dev environment as your source code repository. But I think Shan's ALM tools are probably a great place to start.
Okay, perfect. Does anybody else have anything they'd like to share on that stand? All right. If not, we'll just move right along here and pick up Scott's question. He'd like to know if we're aware of an updated SDK or when that updated SDK might come out that will allow us to interact with the Flow UI, which was currently codenamed the Polaris Forms, of course, adding script support and additional functionality. And I know that that's not available today, and most likely might not be available into the next version. So, what do you guys? what do you guys know about that, and what are your thoughts on that, or what are you looking forward to that? And that kind of also plays into this whole question of, you know, it seems like the current forms might be deprecated at some point in time, and what we will have is the Flow UI. I'm interested in understanding your thoughts and perspectives on that subject.
Well, hey, this is Chris again. I think the big thing you have is that the Orion timeframe is going to answer some of those challenges. Obviously, the current process Flow UI is limited, not ability to talk to custom entities, etc. The scripting is another issue. I think the whole model with how the script is going to be deployed, how you're going to build once and be able to use that script across your forms and the mobile devices, etc., that entire game plan will reveal itself. I would say you'd probably start seeing information within a month on some of that, and including, you know, the SDK timeframes, maybe the beta release, that information. Keep an eye out for all of our blogs and tweets to see when that information will be available. But right now, I think we're all just playing the same waiting game that you guys are.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share on the direction of the process flow forms, interacting with those?
Yeah. Hi, Donna, this is Alex. So what we typically tell clients that the current Polaris forms, they are great for small companies and mid-sized companies that don't really need to extend CRM or to extend the forms. And you know, come the vNext, you know, those forms should be greatly enhanced to support JavaScript and multiple processes, multiple forms. That's the other thing we're missing right now with the existing process-based UI. But yeah, so at least from our side, we're really looking forward to the next version coming up, you know, late summer.
Yeah, so that's a nice segue when you say late summer, early fall. So I've heard that time frame being passed around, but I've not seen anything in writing from Microsoft on it, and I might have missed it. I get a little bit uncomfortable with it because I'm concerned that maybe somebody said something maybe at Convergence, or I don't know. But my concern is that are we setting ourselves up for disappointment here? I mean, if we're setting the expectation of the dates for the next release of CRM, and there's you know, any kind of challenges with it, or it's not a date that Microsoft has committed to, you know, are we setting ourselves up here, you know, for failure and discontent in the community? So I am interested to understand if the panel believes that Microsoft has committed to that late summer, early fall date, or if that's something that's just kind of getting passed around in the community right now.
Hey, Donna, this is Matt. Microsoft has talked at several events. Bob Stutz and Bill Patterson have mentioned at Extreme CRM in Rome in February, and at Convergence in March. They've talked about the third quarter of 2013 being the target date for Orion. I don't think they've said anything about that date shifting, but you know, I think as is always the case with a big product like CRM, you gotta, you know, you can't plan all your projects around those kinds of target dates. But I think that's the publicly announced, and they've got some roadmap documentation out there that has put those target dates out there too.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I think we just have to. I think you're absolutely right. We just have to kind of be careful about what we plan for, and not necessarily get focused on that time frame. So, is it summer, fall, or winter in Australia right now, Leon?
So it's getting chillier. So it's heading into winter. It's heading into winter over here.
Oh, you're turning into winter, so it's going to be quite a while before we get to late summer and early fall for you then, huh? Because it's not going to apply to you.
That's exactly right. But
Okay.
Sydney's pretty clement. It never gets really below 50 in Sydney, 50 Fahrenheit. So we call it winter, but it's really quite pleasant.
Oh, okay, there you go. So I'm guessing it gets fairly hot in the summer then.
Oh yeah, it'll easily get up to 110 in the summer on the odd day.
Cool. All right. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about. I have a question here, which is kind of interesting. I don't know if I personally don't know too much about this particular topic, but I'm interested if other people on the panel do, and that is, can you speak to ways to handle RMAs and returns in CRM, including integration with ERP? Are you guys familiar on that topic? Do we need some clarification?
So I can jump in and add a couple things. So on
no, go for it, Alex.
All right. I've seen a couple systems with RMAs. Nothing really hard. The items to watch out for, typically the, if the ERP system can handle invoices with negative numbers. Depending on the ERP system, the RMAs are handled a little bit different. Also on the CRM side, out of the box, CRM doesn't like invoices with negative numbers. So typically the two items to define are A, should we track RMAs in its own custom entity, and then B, how to handle the invoicing side, if there is one, of RMAs. Those are usually the two typical discussion items for RMAs. Leon, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I used to work many years ago now with Saleslogics that had its own sort of additional custom entities just to handle the return to manufacturer authorizations, the RMAs. But we don't have it in CRM, so yeah, you can either, as Alex says, create a custom entity. You could probably work with a case maybe to handle the sort of the process around the RMA. But for the actual sort of stock leveling and that kind of thing, that would be quite curly. I've not actually done that in Dynamics CRM implementation, but a negative invoice could be one way you could handle it.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, guys. Let's move on to getting a lot of integration type questions with regard to. I think let's just speak generally to these. So we're getting a lot of integration questions with regard to like the Dynamics connector. I don't know about you guys, but I know that a few people have worked with that, and the CRM Field Guide actually has a chapter on working with the Dynamics connector that was written by Kuba, one of the MVPs, and I know he's had some good experience with it and a lot of good things to say about it. So I'd be interested to understand what you guys lead with for your integration approach with CRM and other systems, to include things like Dynamics AS, of course the entire Dynamics product line, and also third-party systems. And do you or have you used the connector? And if so, what's your experience with that or with the other tools that you're using for integration?
All right, hey guys, this is Alex. I can jump in. So yeah, so super high level. So the connector, the out-of-the-box Microsoft connector, that has 4 adapters. It has the adapter for AX, SL, GP, and then it also has a CRM adapter, CRM 2011. So it's out of the box, made to synchronize one of the 3 Microsoft ERP systems to Microsoft CRM or CRM to CRM. The new version is much better than the old version. However, there's still a few caveats, especially when dealing with older versions of the ERP packages or the brand new version. A great example is GP. So I believe it's like GP9 still supported, but GP9 has little glitches, especially when dealing with price lists. If product doesn't appear in an active price list, and moving that to CRM. those are going to be little hiccups. So it works much better with the current version. We typically try using that for integrations. If we hit a roadblock, we then jump on to Scribe or Custom Code. And then we're also using the connector to synchronize two different CRM systems. Typically not a full-blown migration, but synchronize, let's say, accounts or contacts in between two different CRM systems.
Yeah, being at support desk, I'd have to agree with Alex that while the tools are there and they are available to do integrations, etc., you kind of get what you pay for, and those are free. So a tool like Scribe has a lot of advantages for queuing data, for where times that maybe the cloud would be down or you can't connect to a database, that you can save those updates and make them happen later. Those tools exist because they are more robust in nature and allow you to have an easier integration. That said, we have seen customers go live with the out-of-the-box connectors, and they've had some challenges, primarily with support. You have to know GP Connect, and then you have another whole group that responds to each different connector, and so that support is usually directly from Microsoft and can limit your needs and ability to service your end user. So I would recommend looking at a Premier product or looking at custom development, SSIS. There's some other tools like Cozy Rock. One of our MVPs also has an integration written, a few others. So a lot of different things to look at.
Anyone else have any integration information or expertise you'd like to share before we move on? Okay, well, along similar lines, we have a question here. This is kind of an interesting question, not something that I've done with any of the clients that I've worked with, but we're asking how or what we would recommend with respect to integrating Dynamic CRM with Google Apps. So have any of you thought about that, or have you tried that with any of your clients or in any of your development environments, maybe with respect to if there's any integration with regard to calendaring and email, that sort of thing? I personally don't have any experience with it, but I know that I could probably speak to the fact that, with respect to email, I know that CRM allows setup for, SMTP services via the email router. So, I'm guessing that there's some integration you might be able to perform there. Has anyone from the panel done any type of integration work like that?
I don't think that's. I've seen anything like that either. But I've looked at Google Apps and their API a little bit. I mean, there's really two types of integration that you want to look at, and both of them are going to be handled differently. One is, do you want some client side or UI integration? And I see this particular question was talking about CRM4, but so it's on premise. If that's the case, it's going to be building custom pages that you host in the ISV folder on your CRM server to handle querying back to Google Apps, pulling information into CRM for display purposes. If you want to integrate on a data level where you're passing data back and forth, you're probably going to need some kind of proxy in between, some kind of application in between that handles, because you have two totally different authentication methods. To try to set up some kind of single sign-on between them is going to be very hairy. So you'll probably need an application in between that handles passing things back and forth. And from that standpoint, it's going to be like integration with anything else. Just talking to the APIs from that application.
Sure, that makes sense. Thanks, Matt, for that input. Yeah, I usually try to encourage people, to just go the Office route because there's so much functionality that you get from Microsoft Office and integration with CRM, and now it's really pretty much available to anybody on several levels, you know, via Office 365. So, and to me, the subscription pricing that Microsoft has applied to Office 365 just pretty much makes it, you know, affordable to small businesses, and then they also have some nonprofit pricing. I think I just heard that not the CRM online piece of Office 365, but Office 365 itself is actually, I think they actually offer it as a free subscription to nonprofits. Now you have to go through a fairly long and extensive verification process with regard to being not-for-profit, but I believe that they are making that offering. I just had somebody send me an email the other day saying that they actually went through the qualification process and now have Office 365 as a free subscription because they're considered an educational nonprofit organization. So, I mean, that's something certainly that you might want to consider looking into as well. And that's a nice segue into, oops, go ahead.
It's Leon here. Just reading the question, the implication is if they couldn't get Dynamics CRM to work with Google Apps, then they may look somewhere else rather than Dynamics CRM. Obviously, would be a shame. One product, if you've got very basic sort of Salesforce automation type requirements, Zoho CRM does a lot of, basically they leverage the Google Apps stack for a lot of their functionality. So if you have the crazy notion of moving off Dynamics CRM, then certainly don't just look at the obvious incumbent. Possibly look at Zoho as well.
Oh, great advice, Leon. Thanks so much. So now let's enter into this crazy world of licensing and pricing for just a minute. We've got a question here regarding the CRM ESS CALs, and I know there's lots of email exchanges between the MVPs regarding the licensing on several levels, whether it comes to development environments, test environments, what do you need for, you know, who qualifies, you know, as a potential ESS, who doesn't. So I know that, Shan, you're usually heavily engaged in those email exchanges. Leon, you've recently been engaged as well, and I know Chris and several of you, Alex, you have a lot of input with respect to helping people understand licensing. So maybe you could help us with this question and help people understand what that ESS CAL actually is, who's eligible to use it.
Okay, this is Shan here. So the nice thing that we can come back down to is the ESS CAL is meant for an internal user or a contractor working on behalf of your company. If you're accessing the system, as CRM, you have to have a CAL, no matter what. Even if you're not physically accessing it directly, but indirectly, as well as you either have to have an ESS CAL, which is basically the cheapest of the CALs, a limited use CAL or a full CAL, but you need to have a CAL to use the data that's stored or authored by CRM. So whether or not, and that's independent of whether or not you actually have a user record in CRM. So just the instance or creation of a user record doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a CAL. It's if the person is accessing CRM, do you need to have that ESS CAL. Those ESS CALs are only for an on-premise environment. They're not available through the SPLA program, so your hosting partner can't offer that, and they're not currently offered in CRM Online either. So really, it's an on-premise type of a discussion, and you only need one CAL for a user, and then they can access all the Dynamics instances within that organization. But it's only, again, the on-premise organizations that they can access.
Okay, that was great information, Shan. Thanks. I think that probably hopefully answered their questions. And if not, is there a place where you guys can direct people to get that information? I think there's actually a site that I found the other day that has like full licensing information about the Dynamics CRM application. Do you guys know that off the top of your head? Isn't that available? Go ahead.
There's a good document on licensing in PartnerSource that talks about all the different CAL models, how they work, you know, when you should use them, when you shouldn't use them. When in doubt, ask your partner or your local Microsoft rep.
So Fred just had a quick follow-up question here, and that is, do the ESS CAL users need a CRM user record? He doesn't recall hearing a response to that.
Nope,
Actually, I
they
thought
don't
it
need a... Oh, go ahead.
You can go, Alex.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Oh, I was saying I did answer that. Having the ESS CAL is irregardless of whether or not you have a CRM user record. The terms of the CAL state it's the user that has the access requires the CAL. It doesn't say, and you also have to have a user record in CRM. So the user record in CRM would be considered best practice, so you can literally assign objects to them and things like that. But it's, you know, if you're accessing the data in CRM, you need to have a CAL, and that's the license. It has nothing to do with the actual having a user record.
Thanks, Shan. Let's change topics here a little bit. I know there's been a lot of discussion in the community about this as well, and that is the lack of, you know, expressions or calculated fields in dynamic CRM, things like sum of payments or balance due. And some people use third-party plugins for that. I know there's been some solutions out on CodeFlex. So the question is, do we know or are we aware that at some point in time will that type of functionality be built into CRM rather than, you know, having to depend on JavaScript or plugins or third-party solutions?
Microsoft certainly hasn't said anything to that effect, and we're now 10 years into CRM being on the marketplace and that kind of functionality being desired by the market. So I wouldn't hold my breath for it. You know, it may come, but certainly Microsoft hasn't indicated.
I agree. I haven't heard anything from Microsoft on this, and I know it's been talked about a lot in various forums, but we'll just have to wait and hear from Microsoft, see what they're going to do there. You know, we're about 10 minutes out here, and I can see that several of the questions are being answered. So I wanted to just spend a little bit of time talking about a couple of topics that I've heard a lot of buzz about in the community. And one of those is that, you know, at Convergence we heard a lot about Marketo and NetBreeze and a lot on the movement forward for social and marketing integration with Dynamics CRM. And I know that the panel has a lot of thoughts on that, and many of you have actually created, you know, third-party solutions for that. I know Click Dimensions has some solutions around that. Alex, Power Objects has certainly done that. Shan, I know you've done some work with ADX Studio, and Chris and Leon, I'm sure you've got some solutions too. So I'm really interested in what you're looking forward to as the direction for Dynamics CRM from a marketing and social aspect, based on what we've heard, you know, in public from Microsoft, and the things that you might be offering now, and what you're looking forward for the product to do out of the box. So any thoughts that you have on that you'd like to share?
Well, I'll chime in. This is Matt. Obviously, this is kind of my bailiwick with Click Dimensions. That's what we do, provide marketing automation. And it's actually really exciting that Microsoft is going this direction. I mean, this is, I think there's a couple of factors. One is, you know, for the past couple of years, industry analysts have been saying that chief marketing officers' budgets for IT are going to be bigger than the CIO's budget for IT expenditures. So that's one of the reasons it's driving Microsoft in that direction to say, okay, well, what do we need to do to win chief marketing officers over to CRM? That's all good. I think, in my opinion, you know, a rising tide lifts all boats, and the more things that are out there, the more things that marketers look at CRM as a viable solution for their business. You know, I think Microsoft traditionally is going to be really good at offering broad stroke functionality that that provides a platform and that maybe addresses generic scenarios. It's interesting, some of the moves they've made recently with Marketing Pilot are really more specific scenarios, like buying ads and ad time on television stations and planning and budgeting that. That's a pretty specific scenario. So I think they must have something in mind. There's a market in mind that they're going after. But that being said, my way of thinking, that's the direction that that businesses are wanting to go, especially, you know, in uncertain economic times. It's the companies that market that survive and who take that seriously. I think there's some overlap between what Microsoft will offer, just as there often is. You know, if you look at, for example, their customer service functionality in Cases, you know, they've had some overlap with things that have been out there in the marketplace, but to address specific customer needs, there's opportunities for third parties like us to come in and address those specific needs. And then, you know, Microsoft has always been excellent at fostering an ecosystem that is, and that's where the innovation takes place. So, you know, things, I mean, plugging my own company, things, you know, doing something like a GoToWebinar integration with CRM, Microsoft probably isn't going to do something that specific. But, you know, a company like us, we can turn that out, and that's part of our product. So, you know, to me, it's a very interesting time, and I think it's going to be awesome to look at CRM a year from now, 2 years from now, and see how it's evolved.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that too, seeing how it's going to evolve. Anybody else have anything on their radar specifically with respect to marketing and social integration that you're looking for from the Dynamics product?
I think that the new acquisition of NetBreeze is going to play a strategic role for us across the board in how we work with our customers, how we analyze social media content and feeds, and how that's going to impact not only CRM, but all the other products that are in the Microsoft stack. You're going to see that analytics come more and more and more. You can see on my blog there's a new tool that was released for Excel called GeoFlow, which will allow you to do some BI-type work on your CRM data or any other data. Really neat stuff using GeoMaps and hot maps and different growth patterns over time. I think you're going to see the build once scenario where you build it in your online environment or in your on-premise environment, and then that's going to deploy everywhere. So you'll see it on tablet, you'll see it on your mobile device. Again, that ambiguous access that Bob Stutz was talking about at Convergence. And I think Orion itself, you're looking at a new paradox in how we are going to work in CRM, and it's going to require all of us, not only the MVPs, but the user community, to think about how we do business. Today, you know, we look at leads, accounts, opportunities, we're jumping in and out of screens. That new vision is you're on one screen, and you don't have to jump around. And when a salesperson sees that, they absolutely love it. So we're going to be challenged with how do we make all this customization and functionality work within that single screen. You know, a lot of people look at Polaris and they're like, well, wait, you know, how do you save a record? Well, you don't save a record. It's very similar to you're working on your cell phone and somebody calls you. When they hang up that call, you're right back to where you were. It's instantly saved. So we are pushing the envelope of design with that flattening design, the integration across all the different devices. And I think it's a great, exciting time to be a part of CRM and watch those challenges evolve.
Thanks, Chris.
One of the tools that's worth mentioning while we're talking about social is the WebFortis Parrot. If you obviously there's stuff coming, right? So we've got the NetBreeze stuff, and that's coming real soon. Who knows when? We haven't got any timelines for that, and that's going to be very exciting and very powerful. If you're looking for a social integration tool today, check out WebFortis Parrot. It's free for the first 2 users. I'm currently using it on an implementation. Allows you to do sort of monitoring of Twitter, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and directly bring those records into CRM, either as a lead or as a case, or as a contact or an account. And so then you can interact with them directly with CRM. Definitely worth checking out if you need a solution today. Otherwise, definitely hang out and see what happens with NetBreeze.
Oh, wow, that's great to know, Leon. I didn't realize that the first 2 licenses are free for that. That's kind of a no-brainer, huh?
Yeah, and the installation is hideously simple. It's literally a solution file. You implement the solution file, it just works.
Great advice. Thanks. So we're getting down to the end of the hour here, and I know there are a few questions that we didn't get to. So MVPs, feel free to take these next couple of minutes and respond to as many as you can. I will say that if you posed a question and we weren't able to get to it, there are a number of places where you can go and post questions. Microsoft Dynamics has a Facebook page. Microsoft Dynamics CRM has a Facebook page. You can post questions. There's a community forum on the Dynamics community website. There are also the MSDN forums where you can post questions. CRM UG has the Collaborate tool where you can post questions and get responses, and I know that many of the MVPs that are on this panel today, and of course all of the MVPs worldwide, spend their time in those forums responding to questions. Have I left any places out, guys? All right, I'm going to take silence as a no. I just want to take
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, obviously you have all the blogs posted here on the presentation, so you can see where all our blogs are. There was a few questions in the forums about how do we get the latest and current information. What I like to tell my team is to monitor the blogs, monitor not only the MVPs on Twitter, but also monitor the Microsoft management team, the CRM product team, and you guys can figure that out by looking at who we're following and who we're tweeting with and responding with. That's the best way to stay on top of the latest developments and when things will be released.
Great advice, Chris. Thanks. Before I turn this over to Jason real quick, I just want to say my personal thanks to Alex, Chris, Leon, Matt, and Shan for participating today. Really appreciate your insight and sharing your knowledge with the community, so big thank you. And thank you to all of the participants. Great questions. We enjoyed engaging with you and look forward to the next opportunity to do that. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Jason.
All right, thanks, Donna. And yeah, you summed it up really well. Thanks to everyone for attending today. There were a couple questions about getting a recording of today's session, and we have recorded it. We will send out an alert to all of you who registered for the session when that is available. We'll be posting it to our YouTube channel, and we'll also make all today's questions available to our panelists as well, in case they have an inkling to follow up or to address some of these questions in more detail. So please do stay tuned for upcoming sessions we'll be announcing. And thanks again for joining today. And of course, I just want to end by saying thanks to our panel for taking the time out of their busy schedules to do this, especially to Donna for organizing it.
Thanks a lot, Jason. Look forward to chatting with you soon.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure. And thanks everyone again, and have a great day.